And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, UPRN 107.7 FM New Orleans and 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast. How cool is that? And we are also being live streamed wherever podcasts live, including my YouTube channel. So go there and subscribe. To all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps, fellow experiencers, and brothers and sisters in Christ, welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother and spiritual director for the Old Catholic Benedictines of Mary. I can't talk today. And I should have done my vocalization exercises before the show. And a team member with Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of GhostBegone.biz. And yeah, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents The Legion of Exorcists, which is still currently streaming everywhere. HBO Max, Amazon Prime Video, Discovery Plus, Travel on Demand, you name it. If you haven't caught it yet, check it out and then get back to me. Let me know what you think. I'm very proud of the project. Still keeping my fingers crossed we go to a season 2. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-be-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see. Both my books are there. Buy a book. If you buy the books off my website, I autograph them. They leave my office here. I autograph them, and they arrive to you in a beautiful house blessing kit. You never know when one of those is going to come in handy. But you can also get the books a little less expensive at Amazon. They also come in an audio version, which is awesome. But if you get them off the website, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support St. Jude and the ASPCA. How cool is that? Get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. There's a place where you can make an appointment to speak with me and talk about your spiritual issues. And there's also my online course that you can enroll in, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, on the website. You can just enroll. We're taking open enrollment right now for the fall class. If you want to have more information about the course before making that type of commitment, reach out to me. We'll talk. See if the course is right for you. And all my students that graduate the course get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed items you can only get from yours truly. It's a college level 12-week online course. If you're feeling a calling to that, give it a go. See where it will take you. We have an awesome show today, but you all already knew that. That's why you tuned in. I love my guest. And I also love my co-host. So I'm going to bring her on. I've known her forever. She is a lifelong paranormal experiencer. She is the owner of Stellium Books. She happens to be my publisher, and a very good publisher at that. So please give a big, warm Paranormal Ministry family welcome to the one and only Annette Munich.
Hi, Father Shawn. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's going to be a very interesting show, and hello to all of our listeners out in New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM, New Orleans, and 105.3 Gulf Coast. And really happy to be here with everybody.
All righty. You have any announcements you want to make before we bring on our very esteemed guest?
Well, we're working hard on the book.
Yes, we are.
We're working very hard on the book, like very, very hard. And we announced that it was coming out on Halloween. We will be here Halloween night. We will have a show with Susan, and we will have the book ready. And like I said, we've been working very hard. And I asked Father Shawn if I'm getting on his nerves yet, and he said, no, which means yes. But that's okay because it's a process. And it gets a little bit crazy. We're working very hard. The second announcement is about Go Cubbies. Oh my God, we're so close again. I get like this. It's terrible. It's been this way for years because if they get close, so we have to win tomorrow. We have to, or we're done. But we're very
Okay.
close.
I will
Very.
say a little prayer. I won't say a prayer just for them. I'll say a prayer for all of the MLB teams that deserve to go on to please God, give them the path to go on.
Well, yeah, but like mostly the Cubbies.
Okay, I'll throw in the Cubbies. All righty, I'm ready to give. I'm ready to bring on this guy here. You ready?
I am so ready.
I
This is
just
going
met
to
him.
be interesting.
Yes, I just met him for the first time at my United States Old Catholic Church retreat, which was earlier this year. I've known about him for a while prior to that, but I got to finally meet him. He showed up at my retreat. I was so surprised. I didn't know he was going to be
Cool.
there. He showed up. Um, we had a great 4 days there together, and it feels like I've known him forever. I also love him and respect him. He's super cool dude. And so, brothers and sisters, lifelong paranormal experiencer, an authority on the paranormal, authority on occultism, demonology, you name it. Very spiritual, very devoutly religious gentleman. Me and him have so much in common. It just trips me out. Everybody, please give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only Ken Torres.
Hey, Shawn. Hey, Annette. How are you? Wow, that was a mouthful of an introduction. Thank you so much. I definitely am not worthy of such praise. By no means do I consider myself an expert in anything. Uh,
I know I shouldn't have thrown that out. Everybody
no,
always
it's
says that.
I love it though. It's really beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think I'm going to
Yeah,
switch from expert to authority. Maybe
yeah.
that's a
Not
little
even
better.
that. The more I learn, the less I know.
Oh my
And
gosh.
one thing that I've learned recently within the past few months. On this radical transition that I'm on is that I really don't know as much as I thought I knew, and it's been very humbling. Going to the patristic teachings of the Desert Fathers, the Desert Mothers, learning about the religion of the apostles and the divine spiritual councils, and a lot of terminology and words that get thrown around. So I've learned a lot. I've been extremely humbled because most of my background has been Western theology, coming from an old rite Catholic organization. A lot of the focus is like Western theology. And now that I'm in this process of canonical incarnation into the Holy Orthodox Church, I'm on this path of theosis and self-discovery and just letting go of myself. That's why I don't have any other of my titles up there. It's just Ken. No father Ken, no doctor Ken. All of the things that I used to be in the past, I've let them go. Although I still have permission from my archpriest and my metropolitan to use father. I just choose not to because it's not befitting of me at the moment. I'm just stripping myself back to the bare bones, and I am just learning to live Christ in my heart, not intellectually. And so that's where I'm at right now.
There you go, brother. Well said. And
Thank you.
you're going to go far. And I've even noticed that I've seen you in a few pictures alongside the, everybody knows him and loves him. I haven't yet had the chance to meet him yet. Hopefully one day. Father Bob Bailey.
Yes, Father Bob Bailey is my colleague. He's my brother, and we are both co-directors of the Holy Sword Apostolate. And
Very,
so
very
the Holy
cool.
Sword Apostolate is something that started earlier this year. And the idea for the apostolate is to reach those who are struggling spiritually. By no means are we an exorcism ministry. No, no, no. The idea of the Holy Sword Apostolate is to help those who are feeling afflicted, those who need someone to talk to, those who need some comforting. And we have this network of clergy and professionals who are anonymous. No one will ever know who they are unless they choose to say it publicly, and we like it that way. And the idea is to help people find purpose, help them back to Christ, help them find healing, but more importantly, lead them back to the cross.
Very,
Wow,
very
I
cool.
think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool, brother. You
There's
know
a
what,
lot of
Annette?
there's a lot of exorcism ministers out there, and I'm not bad mouthing them. I just it's not for us. Something different is what we're hoping to do.
I know you guys will accomplish, from what I've heard and know of Father Bob and you. I know a bit about you. I've stalked you a bit. I know a bit about you. You guys will go far and do well. And
Right.
you both are on my prayer list,
I
and so I
appreciate that.
pray for
Thank
you
you.
guys, and I know you'll do well. Before I let Annette have at you, she put together such a beautiful promotional banner this week, and there's some topics on there I know that she wants to cover with you. But real
Right.
quick before I let her at you, um, I want I mentioned our retreat, the last USOCC retreat that we
Right.
had
Right.
earlier this year, and that was the first time I had a chance to meet you. Such a nice, pleasant surprise that you
Yeah.
showed up. No one told me you were going to be there. So we had
Yeah.
4 days together in what I refer to as God's country.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah. It was
area out in the
beautiful.
middle of nowhere. Now, because you have all your life, well, not all your life, but many, many times in your life, you've come face to face with true evil. You've studied demonology and so forth. I want to ask you something about the retreat. Here we are. We're going to ordain 2 new deacons. We're going to have 2 Benedictine novices take their permanent vows. We're
Right.
going to
Right.
ordain 2 new bishops. That's
Right.
pretty heavy duty, and you knew the devil was going to work overtime to try and
Right.
prevent that all from happening. So I remember the morning of the bishop's ceremony, that is. I
Right.
get up way earlier before everybody else did so I could take a nice walk down around that Stations
Yeah.
of the Cross garden and so forth.
Yeah.
That
That was so
morning, I
beautiful.
actually had my large pectoral cross yanked off my chest. And then I
Right.
went into the church early to do morning prayer before everybody got up. And I saw actual snake slithering along the floor against the wall to the left of the altar. Well, we didn't have those pews. We had just chairs, rows of
Right. Right.
chairs. So I was able to look down under the chairs, didn't see it, but then I saw a vent. And I thought, well, we're out in the country. That had to be a real snake.
Right.
And it went in the vent. Well, I walk over there. Underneath the metal slats is a screen that's tightly fastened up
Yeah.
below. Nothing can get
Yeah.
through. So I knew, well, that was a real snake, just not the kind of real snake that I thought it was. So,
Right. Right.
um, the 4 days you were there, did you have any paranormal issues or spiritual warfare issues or anything like that happen to you during that time?
Well, thinking about it, I can't really recall any moment in particular. I mean, I just do think that the environment was right. I think the enemy was hard at work trying to stop these things from happening. I do know that I did have a couple of blood sugar drops out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, like my insulin and my Omnipod and my diabetic equipment just went to crap. Right, like it went to crap. It stopped working. Somehow it got demagnetized after I got off the airplane. And so luckily I had the manual stuff with me. That was the only thing that I can think of. Um, I remember going out at night the very first night and I was praying. And on that property, as I was praying, I thought I had saw Bishop Long walk in front of me, but he was still doing his show. And when I went to go say hi to him, I looked and just vanished out of thin air. So I
Yep.
just kind of dismissed it, and I said, "Okay, no, I got you, Satan. You want to play games? I'm powered. I'm protected by the precious blood of Jesus Christ." I think that's the only thing that um, I can think of. Oh, we did have the issue where the heater was just blasting. It
Oh
was
yeah.
hot. It did
Well,
not
that's
work.
another thing. It was
It was like
hot in that.
98. It was like 98 degrees in there.
And it was like that even in the morning when I was in there doing that
Right,
prayer. When I saw that
right, right,
that the snake, and right before I saw the snake, what even made me come out of prayer and look up was the next thing I know, I'm in a meat locker, and I could
right.
almost see my breath. And then I'm
Yeah,
like, okay. And then that's when I had the vision.
yeah.
So yeah, he was hard at work. But another interesting thing was the weather pretty much cooperated the whole time we were there. But
It
when
did.
we were leaving, remember that big storm came through there, and
Right,
there was a part of an area of freeway we drove through where it was really like a torrential downpour and I could almost not
Yes,
see.
yes,
I
yes.
found out later that right after we went through that area, a tornado touched down. Did you know that?
Mhm. I did not know that. I didn't. It
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me though. It was St. Louis. It is Tornado Alley, but I mean, you know, praise be to God that we were okay. I actually, when I got in, I went immediately to the USO because I had like 5 hours. So I went to the USO. I relaxed there, had some nachos, took a nap because I'm retired from the military. So like, cool. I had no idea what was going on outside.
Well, God bless us all for getting through that. I think we all took a vote, if I remember, and we were going to take 2026 off and not we may it may change, but as of right now, I
Right,
think we're going to skip our retreat in 2026.
right.
But maybe the next time we have one, you'll come out again and hang out.
Yeah.
But on that note, before I forget, if next time you talk to Father Bob, give him my best, and I'll let Annette at you for a little bit. I know she wants to chat with you a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sounds good.
I am very intrigued by the topic that you chose, Between
Oh
Two
yes.
Darknesses, escaping paranormal bondage,
Right.
while learning true submission. And I was like, whoa, um,
Yeah, that's some deep stuff right there.
it is some deep stuff. It really is.
So, between two darknesses, learning true submission. So, let me start off with my story. I am medically retired. I'm a combat veteran. I was in the Marine Corps. I spent some time overseas, and when I came back, I went through this period of working for alphabet soup agencies, and I grew up in the church. I grew up Protestant, and at that time, my first marriage, my ex-wife at the time, she passed away. We were Christian, and so I was always involved in church, and I decided that I was going to go back to seminary school. And so I went to school. I got my bachelor's in finance and accounting. Then a few years later, I decided I was going to get my master's, religious degrees, master's, and my doctorate in divinity. And so throughout that process, um, you know, I became Catholic in the Catholic Church, right? Because I was taught to actually hate the Catholic and Orthodox Church, coming from a Protestant mindset. I didn't understand it. And it was through the actual theology itself, through the traditions of the Church Father, that I fell in love with the theology. And I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and convert to Catholicism because I was baptized Catholic. And so during that process, in my time in seminary school, there's a period in which you have to reach out to a local church and do community service. And not only that, but just reach out to a church and do what's called like the mass liturgy. You basically have to work with the church, and they sign off on your hours, to ensure that you have the experience in the sanctuary, performing the Eucharist and the mass and that sort of thing. And so I found this old Catholic order called the Solomonic Order of St. Michael the Archangel, which is now defunct, out of Illinois. And so, I joined this order, and they were old Catholics, right? And it was great. It was good for some while. And then the founding archbishop died. And somewhere along the lines, a few years later, there was this idea that now we became independent Catholics. Independent from what? Independent from Rome, independent from the church. I mean, just independent. There's a difference between Old Catholic, because Old Catholic is actually recognized by the church. The Roman Catholic Church accepts Old Catholics, Roman Catholics, and Orthodox Christians. We have separated brethren, which are Protestant. But when it comes to actual church tradition and history, there's only three that are recognized. They recognize themselves, Old Catholics, and the Orthodox Church. And so there was this point where we became independent Catholics. And so that became problematic for me. And so what ended up happening was, even during that time, I was a part of this organization called the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. I was working with the grandson of Etta Lorraine Warren and finishing up seminary school. The whole idea was to just be like a chaplain, become a pastor, help those in need with the supernatural things according to what my faith taught me, what my faith teaches me. But somewhere along the lines, I got lost on my way to college again. And the independent part got like the best of me, in a sense, where now we were operating outside the authority of a jurisdiction or a canonical body. We were just left by ourselves. And so, I was operating off of this disillusionment that I'm okay with where I'm at. I've already been ordained and consecrated. I've got apostolic succession. Cool, blah, blah, blah. But apostolic succession means nothing if you are outside of the grace of the church. If you cannot trace back your lineage, especially if you separate. One thing is, yes, we were old Catholics. We had the governing body. We had our system. We had an institution to where we were accountable for and accountable to with other bishops over us. And so that was fine and dandy. But once we split from that, we essentially left the grace of the church. And so I was operating off of that. And I was trying to reconcile, my ministry outside of the church with this defunct order that is, that is actually no longer valid and listed, and then working the paranormal. Everybody just knew me as Father Ken. The Warren Legacy Foundation gave me this platform. People knew me as Father Ken. And so I kind of went along those lines, and I strayed a little bit. And, I was deeply involved in the paranormal field. I thought I was helping people. I was trying to seek the truth. I was exploring supernatural realities and, looking at the things that mainstream religion ignored or dismissed. And, I, having all the credentials in theology, pastoral counseling, and mental health, I honestly, genuinely believed that, I was doing God's work in the dark corners of that spiritual experience. But I wasn't. What I discovered is that I wasn't exploring neutral territory. I was opening doors that I didn't fully understand. I was engaging with forces that presented themselves as mysterious or even divine, and they were actually predatory. And so what people need to understand is that the paranormal world isn't what most people think it is. And when I finally saw that, I had to make a choice. I had to either continue down that path or completely abandon it for something radically different. And so that's what led me into Holy Orthodoxy, because when we became independent, I was basically operating excommunicado, not excommunicated literally, but I didn't have anyone to report to. I didn't have anyone who was above me, and the thing that I never really understood is that even 2 years out of my priesthood, right? Even if you call it pseudo priesthood, because that's what I call it now, because that order left a really bad taste on me, and it kind of messed everything up in the sense where, I have to be accountable for the mistakes that I made, and the things that I was taught, and even then, 2 years out of my priesthood, I was made an archbishop or a bishop, right? Coming from a Protestant mindset, I didn't really understand what that meant. For us in the Protestant church, still being new to Catholicism, still being new to what the church teaches, for us in the Protestant world, a bishop was just always a senior pastor. And that's how I presented myself, as a bishop. 2 years out of the priesthood. And as I started praying and discerning, there was something terribly uncomfortable inside of me. It was unsettling. It was bothering me. People were like, well, how are you an archbishop? I go, yeah, I'm just an archbishop, old Catholic archbishop. I guess that's just the way it works, because, we're old Catholics and this is how we do things. And we don't have the big churches that the Roman Catholic Church does. And that's fine, and I rolled with it for a while. I embraced it. I went along with it, I went along with that idea. I went along with this ideology, although at the time, valid, it didn't set right with me. And so during that part, we became independent. I aligned my church body to an Anglican communion. And so we finally were able to be a part of an actual communion. Although the Anglican Church, being Protestant, they have that resemblance of high church, the liturgy, the mass. And so it was great. I had an archbishop to report to. I had a metropolitan to report to. I had other people that I was accountable for, because it was a lot of pressure on me trying to run this order that I inherited, trying to make sense of what it was, what we were doing. And so in between all of that, I was stuck in between the paranormal and the clerical world, trying to infuse the two. And what I came to realize is that, and this is going to offend a lot of people, but there are no paranormal clergy. There's no such thing as paranormal clergy. There isn't. We just so happen to be clergy that are involved in that supernatural world, some more deeper than others. But this whole idea of being a paranormal clergy, that's not right. It doesn't exist in a church. It doesn't exist in the Orthodox Church. It doesn't exist in the Catholic Church. It doesn't exist anywhere else except for Facebook world. And so I had to be really cautious, because I got involved with that and I let that consume me. And so
Yep.
between two darknesses is the bondage that I suffered in the paranormal field, and now the actual the bondage that I suffered under my old church body. And so I'm free from that. A few months ago, I reached out to a couple of canonical organizations. This has been a process for several years now. And so within that process, I submitted my credentials, that sort of thing. But I went to an Eastern Orthodox church, and I didn't know it was an Orthodox church. I didn't know the difference between Eastern Catholics and Western Catholics. I fell in love with the liturgy. I fell in love with everything that was there. And I was like, whoa, this is something different, something that I've never experienced. Everything that I thought I knew, all of my training, all of my credentials, all of my qualifications, all of the ego inside of me that knew everything, all of a sudden didn't know anything. I was completely humbled and wrecked in a great way. And so after months of prayer and discernment, I reached out to the real Orthodox Church of America, the Russian Orthodox Church, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And I received an email several months ago from, and I'm not going to mention the body yet because I'm still in canonical process, but they reached out to me and I've been assigned a spiritual father. I'm back in seminary school. In a sense, I'm studying the Eastern Fathers. So it's just been completely humbling. So that's why I'm just myself, and I'm not trying to present myself any more than what I am. I'm just a wretched servant. I'm not worthy of God's grace. And so here I am. That is between two darknesses. That's escaping the bondage while dying to public identity, because my platform, I thought my platform was to help people. That's what I initially thought. But God doesn't need help with platforms. If he's going to work through you, he's going to work through people. And you don't need a platform. God doesn't need a social media presence to say, hey, no. And so that's where the true submission comes in. I submitted myself to the authority of the church. I'm in this process. I have a righteous, this righteous anger that I'm sorting through. And so, yeah, here I am.
God bless you, brother. You'll be there. You're already there, but you're on the righteous path, man. That's all we can do.
I don't want to be known as a good man. I want to be known as a righteous man. That's my biggest thing.
You are.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's
matter of fact. You know what's funny? I was gifted something by an Eastern Orthodox priest quite some time ago. He sent me this beautiful holy water bottle.
That's so beautiful. I got my beautiful icons here, right here of the Blessed Mother, St. Michael, little prayer corner.
I mean, we're all brothers and sisters. I mean, that was so beautiful of him to send me this holy water bottle. And
that's true.
We're all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Regardless of denomination,
Yeah.
I got a comment from Lee or Leah. I hope I said your name right. Give it all up to God, and he uses you where he needs you to help people. I'm ordering more books, Ken. I finished the one I got yesterday. So thank you for that comment. I noticed too, real quickly, I've seen a few videos of Mari Emanuel, and he holds a cross like yours. Is that he's Eastern Orthodox, right? I think
he's a Coptic Orthodox. He's an Oriental Orthodox, but we're all Orthodox. I'm learning that there are some differences within the country. Well, not the country, but with some Orthodox. There's Eastern Orthodox, and then there is the Coptic Orthodox or the Oriental Orthodox. Yeah, so, but we all have a hand blessing cross, and then we also use it during the Eucharist. We have people kiss the cross, and then we bless them, and we use it also to when we give a homily, that sort of thing. It's a representation that Christ is always in the front, that the cross is always in front of us, and that when we're speaking, it is Christ speaking through us. It's not us. The cross is the reminder.
I love that. I love that, man. We have, like I said, we have a lot in common. We were both spent some time in our younger years, our childhood years in New Jersey.
Right.
You were in the Marines. I was in the Navy.
There we go. Yeah.
My family and I experienced a lot of spiritual activity when I was very young. Um, so I know that you and your family also experienced that in a big way. I would
Right.
love to know because I would have to say probably 2/3 of the people that reach out to me for advice and help are parents that are worried about their children for many reasons. Their child comes to them saying, they have
Oh,
this friend that's friending them and they can't see it. And
yeah.
sometimes these parents write it off as an imaginary friend, but then it turns out to be more than that. But then they all start experiencing stuff. Talk about the experience you and your family went through growing up, but
All right.
then go into some advice for parents and how they should handle this with their children.
Right. So, was born and raised in New York and New Jersey, and New Jersey, New York, the East Coast is pretty haunted, so to speak. There's a lot of historical claims, a lot of activity, and so I was around 12 years old, where my family and I, my mom, well, my dad and my stepmom and my sister and my brother, they moved to this apartment complex. Well, it was a house that was divided into 2 floors. Beautiful place, right? Beautiful, cute home. It's right next to a small little Catholic chapel. You know, um, unsuspecting. I remember when we first moved in. I was helping my dad move in because I lived with my grandmother at the time down the street. The priest had came out and he said, you guys are moving in. He goes, yeah. He goes, interesting. He goes, you guys are the seventh family to have lived here in 2 years.
Wow.
And my dad was like, oh, okay, interesting. Nothing, right? Whatever. So I'm trying to remember as much detail as I can. What I can tell you is that the things started just happening subtly, um, knocking, banging. It was like very sulfuric, nasty smells. One of the big things that we saw is we experienced is my dad and I, my little sister, we were outside in front of the house. We were riding our bikes, and then my dad looks up and he goes, "Oh, look, there's a little girl looking outside the window in our house. How did she get up there?" All four of us saw it because it was my sister, myself, my dad, my stepmother's mother. We saw it and we're like, "Oh, that's cool. Who's that?" So my dad decided he was going to go upstairs. And as we enter the house to go upstairs, you have to go upstairs through the stairs. And then as soon as you walk in, there's the kitchen. There's another room to the right. There's the back door patio that leads back downstairs. And then you have to make an immediate right. And adjacent to the right, there's a hallway that leads upstairs. And so what we saw was this little girl looking out the living room window. And so as my dad is going up there, going up the stairs, there's this loud thump. One of my other sister's tricycles was actually flung down the stairs and it cracked my dad in the head.
Ooh.
And it was kind of weird because the way that worked is you go in this hallway, you go up the stairs, and then upstairs there's 2 rooms and there's a back part. And that back part, there was a back wall. So literally this tricycle, my sister's tricycle, would have to have rolled itself 20 feet, turn around the corner, and come down by itself. So that was one experience. And there was another experience where my dad and my sister and I, because my dad's always loved scary movies. We love scary movies because of him. We were watching Stephen King's, we were watching It, right? The original with Tim Curry.
Yeah.
We're sitting here in the living room. The TV's right here on the living room wall. To the left is the kitchen. You can see the kitchen, the door to the kitchen. And we see this little girl walk by. And we're like, "Hey, sis, come back here. What are you doing over there?" And then she looks up at us. She goes, "I'm right here." So there was a doppelganger of my little sister walking across the kitchen. And so as my dad got up, there was a loud thump, and they're Catholic. And when he got up, I saw this visually as well. We heard it. And when we got to the end result, we saw that thumping, that loud noise, that glass breaking was the candle of Jesus Christ and the Blessed Mother with the crucifix stuck in there upside down, like it was shattered, like it was put there invertedly. And so that was interesting. There was another instance where
And you live right next to a church, correct?
and we lived right next to the church, right?
Yeah,
We lived right next to the
this
church.
thing was angry at the church.
This thing was angry. This thing was angry. It was really angry. And the activity didn't always happen, night after night. There'd be times, that's the way the demonic works. it's subtle, right? It's not sometimes like in movies where it's every day and happens every night. A few months goes by, then all of a sudden my dad is walking up the stairs, and I'm visiting him. It's my weekend visit with him. I'm visiting him, and all of a sudden I hear a thump coming down the stairs. My stepmother was in the kitchen. She goes, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" My dad fell down the stairs. He was pushed backwards, and we had to call 911. He had a heart attack.
Oh,
He
no.
says, as he was going up the stairs, something punched him in the chest so hard that he flew down the stairs and hit his head on the back, on the backboard going down the stairs. Because obviously there's that separation of the floor in the hallway, and there's like, so he went to the hospital. He was there for a few days. He had a heart attack.
You
Now,
get smacked in your chest hard enough, it
yeah,
can
yeah,
interrupt the electrical
yeah,
beating rhythm of your heart, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I want to say it was a heart attack. I was around the 12 years old, so I mean maybe it wasn't, but it was severe enough for the ambulance to take him, and he was in the hospital for a few days.
Wow.
And so, as soon as my dad gets back, I go back home to my grandmother's house. My grandmother's like, "We got to start praying for your dad in that house. There's something wrong there." I visit my dad again next week, and I'm kind of scared to go into the house. And we're like, "Dad, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Spoke to the priest. We went to the priest, and he goes, people have reported things happening in that house, and I've never experienced it, but I will say a prayer and a blessing for you. And so, that he had to schedule that. But throughout that time, though, we had a dog. His name was Zuki. He was a Nikita, Japanese dog. And he would always stay inside the house. He was our protector. He was our guardian. One day, we got home and he was gone. We couldn't find him. He was missing. All the doors were closed. So either somebody broke in, he just disappeared, vanished out of thin air. So, and as we're looking, right, we noticed that the back door to the porch, the first door is closed and locked, but the glass door that separates it to go downstairs was actually flinging open. And so we're like, oh, somebody maybe stole him, or maybe he escaped, whatever it was. So we tried looking for him for a few weeks, and we didn't find him. We went to the animal shelter. We couldn't find him. And about 3 weeks after we couldn't find him, we're like, it's Sunday. My dad wants to do a barbecue. And as we go downstairs to go
This
to...
isn't going to end bad, is it? Because I'll tell you right
It's
now, I'll
going
start
to end
crying.
bad. It is going to end bad.
Okay.
It's going to end bad. And I promise you, because that's how we knew that it was demonic, because as I was going with my dad to go to the basement downstairs, because both units shared a basement and they had a grill for us, we found our dog crucified and gutted open, hung on
Oh
the wall.
Lord.
The wall. We found our Zuki. We called him Zuki. He was
Oh,
crucified and gutted open with his intestines hanging out down there.
Lord.
And it was the most horrific thing ever. And we're like, something's got to give, And so we called, the priest, and we're like, something's happening. And every time he was going to come over, which he was right next door, the little chapel was always right next door, but something always happened. And then that also didn't include that there was this little girl coming out at night under my sister's bed in a pink dress, teaching her words in a different language, teaching her how to curse and telling her to do things. Even to the point where this influenced one of our nieces, where her eyes turned white and she came at my stepmom and my dad with a butcher knife. They had a sleepover. Her eyes were black or white. My dad says, he alleges, and she had a dark voice. She was extremely powerful. She was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, and she came at them with a knife because the girl told her that I have to kill you guys to be with her. And so that's when we knew there was something problematic. Finally, after a few months of these things happening, a lot of other incidents that I don't remember or that I wasn't there to experience, we have the priest come. And the priest comes, and my grandmother, Protestant as well, start praying for the house. And as they start praying or exercising and blessing the house, we heard this loud growling. It was like very demonic guttural growling. You know what I mean? And the house started shaking a little bit. And so after about an hour of prayer and that exorcism, we believed that it was gone. A few weeks had gone by. Nothing else has happened. Everything was normal. but they decided to get out of the house. And so as my dad is packing up, there is in the closet, there's a door, and in that door it leads to the other part of the attic. And there was a little box inside of it. And in that box, this is graphic. And in that box, there were pictures of used children's underwear and naked photos of children.
Oh,
So
wow.
my father turned that over to the police, and the police had mentioned that they suspected that there was some sort of child trafficking or abuse happening to children there. But throughout that time too, my stepmother would call the landlord and say, the neighbors downstairs are making noise. Why are they playing that heavy satanic metal music? It's annoying. They need to stop. Every night from like 12 in the morning to like 2 in the morning, it's like, stop. We're getting tired of this. And the landlord's like, no one is living there. No one has lived there in over 3 years. You guys are the only ones living in that unit.
Wow.
And so when the landlord went to go confront, see whatever it was, there was feces everywhere. There were remnants of sacrificial things that I can't go into detail about because it's very explicitive. So the idea was, and this is now I'm trying to put this together years later, the idea is that we think that what the people were doing downstairs, they were actual satanic worshipers, not Church of Satan, geopolitic group, actual true satanic worshipers, people who were performing evil rituals and sacrificing human beings, that sort of thing. These people were evil. And so the idea, what I think is, whatever they were doing downstairs was also feeding what was happening upstairs with the abuse and the child exploitation. And so when that left, that was still there. And so that's what I think would happen. And so that's kind of just left an impact in me my whole life. So the demonic was real. That was demonic. That was evil. There's no other explanation for that.
You hear people throw around the term, that place ought to be demolished or burned down and the ground salted and then not built, don't build on it again. I think of that when you tell me that story.
Yeah. And last I checked on Google Maps, that building is still there, and that church is still there.
Wow.
The church is probably this ultimate barrier that's keeping whatever is there in that location from spreading like a cancer throughout the rest of that area.
I believe so too, because directly across the street is another Protestant church. It's a Pentecostal church. But that area right there in Paterson, New Jersey, because I was going to, a John F. Kennedy High School, which is right there in Paterson, New Jersey. That area, John F. Kennedy High School, that whole area of West Paterson, was demolished, and it used to be burial grounds. So who knows? Everyone's got their ideas. Oh, it was built on ancient burial ground, but that's every property you go to, all of a sudden is built on ancient Indian burial grounds. How do we know that, right? How can we prove that? That's just speculation.
What do you think? What advice might you give a parent whose child is being terrorized or targeted by some unseen force of a malevolent nature? And it may be behaving malevolent and not be demonic, but God forbid if it's demonic too.
Right.
What advice would you give when through the eyes of a parent? Do you have children?
Don't have children. No.
What do you think? What's your feeling on that?
Well, I mean, I've dealt with families that have had that situation before, and I can talk from experience. Normally, what I tell the parents is, first of all, don't disregard your children. Make sure that you take the appropriate measures. Have them see a child psychologist, a therapist to talk about their feelings, help understand what's going on. Don't dismiss them, because most parents, I've learned in my experiences, that they would dismiss their children. Oh, that's just an imaginary friend. It could be so, but to them, that's important. To them, for that child, that's a realistic experience, and we can't dismiss it. So you take the appropriate measures, talk to a child psychologist, behavioral therapist, that sort of thing. Go through the normal routes first, because we are treated as a whole. And if you can't find a natural explanation, or the natural explanation is given, and you think it's something that's more sinister or spiritual in nature, go back to church, go back to Christ. Go back to the gospel, go back to praying, go back to reading the scripture. More importantly, one confession is better than 1,000 exorcisms. That is true. What you want to do is you want to bring your family back under the grace and the guidance of God and divine protection of the Holy Spirit. You would have asked me this a lot. You would have asked me this last year, and I would have given you what the social media consensus is. Go ahead, surround yourself with the white light. Go ahead and burn some sage and this and that. No. Well, we're not playing these games anymore, because the fact of the reality is that the church has 2,000 years of dealing with these sorts of things, and I think that's the problem. There's this misconception that when you engage with the demonic realm using certain things, that it'll make it better. No, you come back to it and you fight it with divine grace. You fight it with Christ. You fight it with Jesus Christ. You fight it, with having faith, going to confession, participating in the sacraments, and you'll be okay. And also know that you have authority. These things can only do what they're allowed to do. They have limited authority, but that's the idea. These things can be a test of faith, not only for the child, but for you. I mean, it's a little harder to describe a test of faith for the child, but I believe that through those experiences as well, what that child is experiencing and you bonding with your child, that can also bring you back to the fullness of truth. At the end of the day, don't try to engage with it. Don't try to decipher it. Don't try to put a K2 meter on there. Don't investigate your own home. Don't do any of those things. Don't. 2,000 years of church tradition, church fathers, the desert fathers, documented accounts of exorcism and deliverances. Go back to Christ, plain and simple. And that's really the answer. And people don't want to hear this. Well, I don't believe in God. Well, if you don't believe in God, then you can't definitely believe in demons. So here's the thing, the demonic exists whether you believe in it or not. The earth is round, but a lot of people believe that the earth is flat. Just because you don't believe in cancer, it doesn't mean that it's not out there. There are treatments out there for those sorts of things. So just because you don't believe in something, it doesn't mean that it can't happen to you. It doesn't mean that you are exempted, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I think many times, often people, especially in this paranormal field, it can be very toxic at times. Oh, I don't believe in God, and the church hurt me. Okay, let's talk about what the church did. Yes, it's true that there are severe cases of abuse. We know that, and that needs to go punished, right? There needs to be repercussions for that. But there's always this excuse. Oh, the church hurt me. How did the church hurt you? Oh, because they told me things in a certain way and I didn't like the way they spoke to me, or they told me what the scripture says. And okay, hey, check it out. Be a big boy, be a big girl, okay, and accept the truth, right? The truth sometimes hurts. People want to be comforted falsely, and that's always the type of person that I've been. Like, I try to be compassionate, I've tried to be empathetic, and I've been guilty of this as well too in the past, and I'm accountable for that, and I will admit it. I've been that type of guy that's like, oh, you know what? It's all right. Don't worry about it. Poor baby, poor you. No, not anymore. We are grown adults. You know what I mean? We are flawed. We are humans. We make mistakes. And if you have to go to work, right? So if you don't like your boss because you don't like the way he talks to you, or you don't like the way he runs the business, what does that mean? That you're not going to go back to work? No, you have to look at the parallels. People are always given excuses. And the excuse is the church hurt me, or I've been hurt by this individual. Guess what? So have we. We've all been hurt by someone, by something. I've been hurt by the church as well. And here I am, right? So we have to stop looking at those flaws and start using those as an excuse. Because if the church hurts you, I can also guarantee that you've also hurt somebody else. So let us he that is free of sin cast the first stone. So we got to stop making these excuses. And that's the severity of this paranormal field. Everybody wants to feel consoled. Everybody wants to feel good about themselves. People want comforting lies. And it's not our job as clergy, as priests, as real people of conviction to give them comforting lies. I'm not doing that. I'm going to tell you straight up what you need to do. Go back to church, go back to Christ, and that's it. And if you don't believe in God, well, I pray for reconciliation. I pray for repentance. And I pray that you find the answers that you need. But you're not going to find it in sage. You're not going to find it in a tiki rain dance. You're not going to find it in taking a shower in milk. It doesn't work. And even if it does, these energies, they know, they are so intellectual, so smart. They can play along with your games. They can give you this false sense of hope, like, oh, okay, so that really did work. I'm good to go, and nothing is happening. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get hit again, right? So, you know, that's why I left the paranormal field. That's why I'm denouncing, and I've denounced this field, because I've been looking at it from a wrong perspective. Even though clergy and having all of this theological training, I was trying to appease the masses because I didn't want to offend anybody. And I'm sorry, if my faith offends you, then I don't know what to tell you. And that's the issue. A lot of Christianity, a lot of Christians, they come under attack. You see a lot of Wiccans and pagans and all of these other people. They're quick to bash Christianity. They're quick to talk about the Crusades and all these sorts of things, right? And it's okay for them to bash our faith. But when we speak with love and compassion and mercy and empathy, all of a sudden it's an attack. Now you have to ask yourself, why does it make you uncomfortable? Because there's a truth there. We have documented evidence, historical evidence from enemies, and even those who were friends of Jesus, about a true historical resurrection. It has been documented throughout millennia, right? And so go ahead, you can go ahead and worship your gods and your deities. Beautiful. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But my truth is my truth. It's not subjective. It's the ultimate truth. And because if that is not the case, then why is it that every time these rituals don't work, you want to call a priest? We're there for just the, excuse the French, the oh crap moments, because people want some sort of comfort. They want some sort of, well, there's somebody with spiritual authority just in case these things don't work. And we have to stop allowing ourselves to do that. We have to stop allowing ourselves to be that. We also have to keep other people accountable. We give them the advice, and if you want to take it, take it. If not, oh well, I don't know what to tell you. We can't save everybody. And so that's one of the main reasons why I've left this field, because I understand now that being under authority is one of the most important things. Being proper and canonical and having spiritual guidance and coverage from the church and the Holy Fathers, that's important. All of these things play a role, and they help you see things that you're missing. And that's the thing with the paranormal. It's seductive, right?
Yeah.
We try to give an explanation. Oh, this is a poltergeist. This is Uncle John. This is Uncle Joe, right? Oh my gosh, we try to label everything with all of these sorts of equipment, and oh my gosh, I got this wonderful comfort. I think I found out who it is. Oh yeah, it's Uncle John, but it's not. It's spiritual deceptiveness. The church fathers call that spiritual prelust, spiritual delusion. To think that you can identify some sort of entity based by what you're feeling, come on now. Under what guidance? Under what authority? Under what training? Who's giving you that authority? How do you know the difference between? That's the question that we have to ask. And then we also have to ask ourselves, what is the feeling after the encounter? Is there peace? Is there comfort? Is there reconciliation? Is the marriage falling apart? These are the dangers of the paranormal. These are the dangers of spiritual prelust. As human beings, we want to control the narrative. We want to give everything a name, right? And so what we do is we pop up in a K2 meter, we use an EMF detector, we use a REM pod. Cool. They can pick up physical disturbances. That's all they can do. But they cannot tell you what's spiritually there. And to think that we are arrogant enough to think that we know what that spirit is, no, we don't. We don't know what it is. As much as we try to classify it, the only people, dare I say, that have that authority are those under the authority, like priests. Our job is to discern. And we also have individuals that have the gift of discernment, right? People would call them modern mediums, psychics, whatever. I believe that is a fruitful gift, but it has to be done within the capacity of edification, right? Within the structure of the church. We have had a lot of holy people, holy saints. We even have saints right now that don't have that psychic ability to tell the future, but they've been revealed by God and the Holy Spirit because of their piety, because of their authentic faith. So Lord Jesus Christ reveals things to them, and it's not definitely psychic medium, but that discernment is critical and key. So there are some exceptions, and this is also another deep theological debate that we would have to get to, maybe in another episode, because
Absolutely.
I
I'll
have
bring
a
you back.
25, I have a 25-page script for today's show, and we
Well,
barely got one.
well, I already got your you agreed to come back because
Yeah,
I knew
yeah,
you would, and we
yeah,
have come to that time before we get cut
yeah,
off where I gotta cut you loose, brother. Time
yeah.
flew.
Yeah, oh my gosh, isn't that crazy?
I'm gonna reach out to you before the weekend's over and throw my next open dates at you and get you back
Yeah,
here. And
yeah.
Annette, before we kick uh, Ken out of here, anything you'd like to say to him?
I am just so glad that you came today and really enjoyed everything that you had to
Appreciate
offer
it.
as, some very good theological perspective, how
Right, right.
people see things a little bit more realistically, and I appreciate you.
I appreciate that. And can I say one thing too, before
Please.
we end? Before people dismiss theology, it's important to know that theology is the mother of sciences. Theology has given us astronomy and cosmology. It's given us physics. It's given us mathematics. It's given us medicine. It's given biology and natural sciences. It's given chemistry. It's given geology. It's given ethics and logic and philosophy. So those are some important things to remember before we dismiss theology.
Absolutely. Ken, I love you and respect you, brother. Have a wonderful remainder to your Friday evening and
Thank
your
you.
weekend. And can't wait to see you again, brother.
Amen. Thank you. Praise be
Thank
to
Right.
God.
you.
All right. I love that guy.
I'll be thinking about all of that off and on for the rest of the day.
I will see you next Friday, October 17th, backed by extreme popular demand. Paranormal Authority, Brian Bowden will be here next Friday.
Oh, yes, he's awesome.
Well, is there anything you would like to say to the masses, young lady, before I kick you out of here?
Young lady, I love that. Um, just say, wishing everybody a great night, a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. We love having you. We love our chatters. We love you guys so much. Thank you for coming and interacting with us. We love your questions, your opinions. Have a great weekend.
Good night, Annette.
Good night.
Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books. I just got a brief moment here, guys. I want to thank all of you for tuning in because I know, believe me, this is from the heart. I know I don't have a show without all of you. So God bless you all for tuning in. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started here on High Strangeness Fridays on UPRN. Coming up next is Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. That's a great show. Um, what else do I want to say to you guys? It's just so much, but I don't have the time. So what I will say, guys, is look into the USOCC if you're looking for a church that accepts everybody, and I mean that, United States Old Catholic Church. Reach out to me, the spiritual director of the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary, if you're feeling a calling that maybe the Benedictines is in your future. And otherwise than that, I love you all. Thank you to United Public Radio Network, Joe Montaldo, Michelle DeRoche for making this happen, having my show on this network. And remember, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. I love you all. God bless you all. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Peace.